get into it. Just want to go over my pre-market game plan going into tomorrow, and I'll do my best to do a quick session recap of today. So as always, let's keep this quick, clean, and easy. So today, for me, was a cash day. The last 2 days, really not much going on in the markets, at least for me. Last week, hey, our hand was hot. The market was hot. We were getting setups. We thought Tesla was back. Out of 5 trading days last week, I took 4 trades, went 4 for 4, and the only trade I took this week was Monday, and that's it. So, right, remember, cash is still a position. Not trading is still trading in proper risk management. I'm patient. I let my trades come to me. So if things have been slow, so be it. And I'll explain. I'll explain that here in a bit. Now, we can go here on the 1 hour on SPY. You can clearly see here we're starting to sit in the channel. Starting to sit in the channel, which is expected. Consolidation, next leg higher or lower. So SPY sitting in the channel. This sideways action, not really a surprise. Not really a surprise. And that's what we saw today. Something that I've been trying to teach you is on a technical standpoint. Remember, if price is sitting in between the previous day high and the previous day low, on a technical standpoint, it's still sitting in a range. Price is not moving higher or lower. Now, I am happy that SPY did end up pulling back because we ended up opening up here today. And this was the previous day high, so we had a gap. So we ended up filling the gap. I thought buyers would probably step up after the gap fill, push this thing higher. That didn't happen. But on the bright side, we did fill the gap. Today was just an inside bar day, right? Price can continue higher or lower. So that causes a lot of chop sitting around, everything else. So same game plan as it was today, going into tomorrow, a break and retest over 685.25 or a pullback long off of the 679.85. Keep in mind, today was an inside bar day, right? Like nothing going on. It's a slower week. We had Veterans Day yesterday. Today, not much went on. We did fill the gap. So you can clearly see though, we're moving higher. We're moving higher. So tomorrow, break and retest over the 685 is it's very valid. But just keep in mind, not really a play that I'm looking for just because all-time highs is up here. And like I've been saying, I don't want to enter late to the party. Qs, same thing. Same thing on the Qs. You can see here, we're sitting in a channel. One sec. Sitting in a channel here on the Qs, right? It's not in here. Now, I did break this down yesterday. I'm very comfortable, going long off the 617 or a break and retest over 626.60. You can clearly see there's more divergence on the SPY compared to the Qs. SPY is pretty much near all-time highs. Qs have some way to go. So I'm really looking for the setups here on the Qs, but this pullback long over the 617.20 is a valid shot. Now, let's go here on the daily. You can clearly see, give me one sec. You can clearly see the 617.20 is such a strong support level. The last 3 days in a row, buyers have stepped up here. Buyers have stepped up here very aggressively and defended this thing the last 3 days in a row. I was looking for the pullback long today off this level. I just didn't get a deep enough pullback. And as you know, I'm a risk manager before I am a trader. But I'm comfortable taking that or a break and retest over that. Now, I will say, let's keep in mind, we still got this gap to fill. Once again, this market started the week off with a very big gap. We still have this gap to fill. So, like I said yesterday, be cautious if you're looking for a long off this 617.20, because if we fall under that, that's normal. That's just a market filling this gap. That's an objective. We started this week off with a gap fill. I'm sorry, with a gap up, and this thing hasn't even scratched it yet. We haven't even started to fill this gap. So just be cautious here off this 617.20. But this is really the key level I'm looking for. Either we're going to pull back and hold it, or I'm just going to sit on my hands, wait for this pullback so it can fill this gap. And something I've been saying, I've been looking at the 612.80 for a minute now, and I still, right, just look left. We still haven't really got one of these. Remember, we gapped above this level here. Again, this week we gapped above this level. So I still haven't got a solid break and retest over the 612.80. And this is really like the gap. I'm sorry, the dip. I'm looking for this on the 612.80. But this is valid. The 617.20, that is a valid level. You can see how strong it is. It's been holding up for the last 3 days. That is a key level right here. So that's exactly what I'm looking for on QQQ. Tesla, really nothing. Desmac, middle of the range, nothing for me here. I haven't even been looking at this name. Like I said, as long as, it's above 410, we're bullish bias. But as long as it's sitting in between 466 and 410, I'm hands off this name. Kudos to you if you've been trading it, 5-minute RB, breaking retest of the previous day lows, highs, however you want to play it. Kudos to you, but I am just hands off this name. There's nothing in here for me. Tesla is an aggressive stock. It moves very well on the underlying. So in other words, you can get cooked on this, and I am not looking to get cooked on it. So I'm just being patient. We avoided all this mess for a reason. Now that it's back in here, I'm hands off. If you remember last week, I took 2 trades in a row, high quality setups. Since it fell back in this range, I'm hands off this name. I'm not going to force it. NVIDIA. I was hoping this thing would pull back more to fill the gap. Remember, these names started off this week with very big gap ups. The last 2 days, though, it's done fairly well, filling the gap. Last 2 days. Now, like I said, it's been kind of slow this week. Not much going on. What do you notice here on the video? Inside bar day. Inside bar day. Nothing going on. Remember, if price is in between the previous day high and the previous day low, it's not moving higher or lower. So you can clearly see on the dot, actually, previous day high and previous day low. What does that mean? Price is just doing this. Nothing going on. So tomorrow, same game plan as it was today. I'm looking for a pullback long here off of 190.10 or a break and retest above this 195.60. This is a valid shot. I'm looking for that. I love the built up liquidity here. 2 days in a row. Daily double top. If we get over this, I love the confluence because it's also the previous day high. So that's something I'm looking for. Remember, trend is your friend, dip is your friend. So even a pullback long off this 190.10 is a valid setup. Apple. Now, I really want to break down Apple. So Apple's set up today. If you caught this, kudos to you. First, let's start on the daily. I mean, we drew this out perfectly. I mean, I drew this out perfectly. This is the beautiful analysis. We all did this together. So if you caught this today, kudos to you. So yesterday I said, right, I wanted to see a candle form above here. And then I want to see the wick off of this, which is what we got today, and then see that. That set up today on the dot. That is beautiful. Now, I ended up skipping this trade. And I really want to break this down. So for me personally, I did not get a deep enough pullback. And like I said, I'm a risk manager before I am a trader. And I'm always thinking about how much I can potentially lose on a trade if I am wrong. So you can see here on Apple, we ended up getting the pullback, but just not deep enough for my liking. Give me 1 sec, gonna break this down a little bit more thoroughly. So just not deep enough for my liking, right? We pull back, buyer stepped up here at 271.70, and our key level here is 271.40. Now, this would be a little different if this wick, if this candle closed bearish down here and then buyer stepped up, but I gotta let this candle close. The overall market was pulling back very heavy today, and I did not like that. And the way that I trade, you gotta understand, if I go long here and we ended up pulling back, right, to our 271.40, I'm already gonna be in drawdown. Now, I will make a video on this in the future. More than half of trading is picking the right strike prices and contracts. I was looking at the contracts on Apple, one strike price out of the money. The delta was sitting around 32, 35. I am not taking that shot. I'm a risk manager before I'm a trader. It wasn't a deep enough pullback for me. I know that Apple moves very slow in the underlying, and I am not taking a strike price out of the money on contracts on a Wednesday when the delta is sitting around 30. Why? Remember, the way those contracts go out of the money into the money and you make more, it can do the exact opposite, right? It goes hand in hand. So if we end up pulling back to our 271.40 and then we fall under that, and you know how I trade, I have to wait for the candle to close under my stop loss with proper displacement because I don't want to be part of that group that's getting squeezed out of the position for a loss. If that happens, that's a very big hit. That is a very big stop loss. You got to understand, my stop loss would be maybe something like that. That's a big stop loss. Remember, as we get closer to expiration dates, those contracts get more volatile. So there's no way, I'm taking a shot on Apple when the delta's sitting around 30 and it's a out of the money contract. There's no way. So for me personally, I skipped this trade. It was not worth the risk to me. But if you caught this, kudos to you. This was the game plan. A pullback long off this 271.40, and this thing trended all the way higher. That is beautiful. That is textbook. So if you caught that, kudos to you. Tomorrow, really the same game plan as it was today. Like I said, I want to see the top of this range turn into support. So for me, I'm looking for a pullback long, targeting here and all-time highs. That is a very valid setup. That's a valid shot. We are bullish bias on this name, right? Consolidation, next leg higher. That is textbook. It's setting up on the dot. So Apple, still on my close watch list. This is something that I'm watching tomorrow. But today was just more so a conservative play. I didn't like the setup. I didn't like the pullback wasn't deep enough for me, so I skipped this trade. You can see it found pretty much some support here from the intraday pivot point right here on the 15-minute. But like I said, I only take trades off of key levels. Just not worth the risk to me. So, but if you caught that, super good shot. Tomorrow, literally same game plan. We can start to see here. This thing is starting to hold as support. This 271.40. So just looking for a pullback long over this 271.40, targeting the top of that range. AMD. So like I said, there was really not much today. The only thing that really set up was Apple, and that's pretty much it. You can see here in the morning session, we ended up getting a breakout here on AMD. We failed, and then we broke out again. What does that mean? We never got a break and retest, so there was no setup. There was no setup here, and we were in the middle of this channel, which is my no trade zone for obvious reasons. Give me 1 sec. For obvious reasons, no trade zone for me in here. Now, tomorrow, you can look for a pullback long off this 252.90. I'm a little cautious on that. I just don't like sitting in this channel. I don't like sitting in zones. And then we're already near all-time highs. Like I said, I don't want to enter late to the party. This was really the trade, this 242.80 I was looking for on AMD. Never got it. You can see here, never really got that. That was the A-plus trade that I was looking for. Remember, if we enter up here, we're already late to the party. We're already sitting near all-time highs. So I'll draw this out. For me tomorrow, if we just stay in here, I'm just hands off. Another reason for that is not only will we be in the middle of this channel, we'll be sitting between the previous day high and the previous day low. So those are just two things that I don't like. But you can look for that. You can definitely look for that, targeting all-time highs. But for me personally, this is what I'm looking for. I still want this pullback long to 242.80. So as long as we haven't taken out the all-time highs yet, this play is still valid. This thing is still in play. To pull back to 242.80. So we'll see how tomorrow goes. But really no setup today here on AMD. We ended up getting the break over our key level, but we never got the retest. Remember, this was a bullfat break I was looking for on the daily, but we ended up opening up at the top of this range. Never got that pullback, so cash day. Palantir. So this thing was heavy today as well. Like I said, no plays today, at least for me. But it's an objective. Remember, what did we start the week off with? This gap. So what did we do today? We filled more than 50% of this gap. That's solid. Today was a market objective type day on some of these names. So when I look at Palantir, I just see it as, hey, today it pulled back, it filled some of this gap, and buyer stepped up aggressively. Remember, as long as we're above 169, we're bullish bias. So I will be looking for a break and retest over 188. As we know, this is really the key level I've been watching here. I've been hawking this thing like a shark, bro. So if we can get this over 188 and it's a weekly level, I'm definitely looking for that. Today, it just filled its gap. It filled part of its gap, not fully, but it did its job. Or you can look for a pullback long off this 177.05. I've been saying this is a very solid level. This 177, this thing has been holding up fairly well. You can see right here, it's been holding up. So something like that, but preferably this. Why? Because we'll be outside of all that noise. I'm really looking for this targeting top of this range. We are bullish bias on Palantir. Okay, now that that's done, side watches, hood. We know we're bullish bias on this tape, so you're only looking to go long, right? We ended up having a break and retest. I'm sorry, pullback long off of 130. Buyers did step up and try and defend this in the intraday. They did fairly well. I think someone sent me a screenshot of them taking a long on here, and they were actually able to catch this. You see, we retested, buyers stepped up, they sold into that push, so really good sell. We pulled back down, right? And buyers tried to defend this thing again. We failed, right? You know you're not looking to short this name, and what do we do when we reclaim it? Fuel this thing higher. So hood's in play. I haven't really been eyeing it, but we do know we're bullish bias. So coming into tomorrow, really just a break and retest over 133.05. It's a key level here. You can see the last 3 days been respected on the dot. So a break and retest above 133.05 is solid. Google, this is good. Finally, finally this thing pulled back. You can see on the daily, this thing is so bullish. We're trending to the upside. So I'm hands off this name. Like I said, you're late to the party if you enter up here. But if I'm looking for a trade on Google, the only way I'm taking a trade on this name is if we get kind of like the setup I just played out on Apple. I want a big displacement candle on the daily and then a retest. That's the only way I'm taking something off the top of this range. You can clearly see clear key level here, resistance, key resistance level. So I want to see the top of this channel turn into support. And then last, Amazon. So Amazon was on my close watch list today. We ended up falling under, so I took it off. I'm not gonna force it. We are bullish bias on this name. We're bullish bias on this name. So tomorrow, I really don't want to touch anything on Amazon until we get outside of this channel, right? Until we get outside of this channel. You can play the break and retest on these other names, but for me personally, I'm just looking for, right, something like this. Over 250, targeting here, targeting here. That's a solid shot. So if it's been a slow week for you, it's been a slow week for me. I've only had one trade this week, which was on Monday. Like I said, it was Apple. We're bullish bias on this name. Other than that, remember, don't force anything. Cash is still a position. Not trading is still trading. And let your trades come to you. So hope this helps. Let's have a good day. Let's keep this momentum going, right? Nothing we can do about the slow price action right now in the market. The market's in a channel. Things are consolidating. Things are filling gaps. So understand the conditions. Don't come in here, trying to force trades, throwing crap out the wall and hope it sticks. Be patient. Let your trades come to you.